When I was a child, I would run away from my parents because they would take a cane, chase me to the toilet and whack me.
We were like terrified of whatever would come.
Sometimes children being children, their mental capacity to understand is limited. So unfortunately, sometimes physical punishment may be necessary.
Everyone has heard of the phrase, spare the rod and spoil the child, with some people proclaiming, I got hit and I turned out fine. Some parents state that this fear of physical punishment makes children respect authority, helping to deter negative behaviors. However, according to a study conducted by Singapore Children's Society and Yale NUS College in 2021, 70% of parents and 67% of young adults who participated in the study viewed physical discipline as never effective or most of the time not effective. We wanted to find out what Singaporeans think about physical discipline of children. AsiaOne recently did a survey which received 1,152 valid responses. 90% of our respondents were physically disciplined by their parents when they were young, with the most common reason being that they did not heed repeated warnings to stop doing something. 83% of respondents thought that parents physically disciplining children is at least sometimes acceptable, with those who had been physically disciplined themselves when they were young being more likely to be of this view. Among those who felt that it is not acceptable for parents to physically discipline their children, rewarding good behavior and withdrawing privileges were the most common methods of disciplining found to be acceptable among this group. We also found that across generations, the reasons for physical discipline of children seem to have shifted. Among respondents with children, 66% of respondents had physically disciplined their child or children. When we compare the reasons why respondents physically disciplined their children and the reasons why they were physically disciplined themselves when they were young, not heeding repeated warnings to stop doing something remained the most common reason. However, some reasons such as not meeting expectations for exams or competitions were notably less likely to be reasons for physically disciplining children today. In contrast, other reasons such as the children behaving in ways that endangered themselves or others, or repeatedly being rude towards others, were more likely to be reasons why respondents met out physical discipline on their children today compared to the older generation of respondents. To expand on these findings, we headed out to find out if Singaporeans felt that physical punishment on children is still acceptable today.
Yes, when the children don't listen, and they're very stubborn, they override the parents' decision, you have to teach them. If they're not listening, you have to give a small punishment, just a slight harm where they feel that it's the wrong thing to do.
I think it's acceptable. You just need to know the realms and the boundaries of what you consider punishment, because if you are punishing the child, you shouldn't be angry.
It probably depends on the situation, but I believe a firm hand may sometimes be necessary, especially when it's a particularly serious problem. But for everyday stuff, I guess talking to is okay.
I don't think it's advisable. For me, I think that we should advise them, give them the reason why, explain to them.
Absolutely not. What I do, I just talk to my children, and when it comes to punishment, their father does that. He is the bad guy, I'm the good guy.
I find that there is a limit. When I was being disciplined last time, right, my dad used to cane my head to make me feel the pain so that I wouldn't repeat the same mistake again. As long as you don't go beyond the lines of, the rest of the body and just the hands, I think it's fine.
I'm actually a parent to two very young boys. So that question did cross my mind. Like, when would it be permissible to use actual force on them? My wife and I discussed this. Like, in general, it's no. But if they do commit something that is very atrocious or very bad, then we think that it's acceptable within certain limits. But of course, if they are really young, then across the board is no.
Very seldom when they were young, but there was one occasion when I did it one time and my daughter was totally taken aback because never done it before. So that one time stuck with her for a long time.
Yes, I do remember more on the boys, just probably a slapping, But on my daughter, no.
Only when I had to, because of the difficulty of getting across a message. Sometimes the children don't respond the way you want them to respond.
No, I'm not the type,
When I was a child, we didn't have a choice. We were like terrified of whatever would come.
Myself, fear was of caning.
You'll be caning lah. Because I remember like when I was a child, I would run away from my parents because they would take a cane, chase me to the toilet and whack me.
Yes, if they listen, then you don't have to give a harsh punishment to them. As long as they understand and listen and do not commit the same offense again and improve in their action, that should be all right.
Spare the rod, spoil the child. I go back to that. That's how we were brought up. There's nothing about old school or now. I think if you just were to talk and talk and talk, it doesn't get in the head.
I think first of all, reason, yes. Yeah, we're trying to reason with them is most important, because I think without reasoning and giving the punishment, you will get a negative response.
I think there's a case for both. And also depends on the circumstances. If the child is reasonable and in a good frame of mind to accept reasoning, fine. But sometimes children being children, their mental capacity to understand is limited. So unfortunately, sometimes physical punishment may be necessary.
Of the people we interviewed, around half of them felt that it is not acceptable for parents to use physical punishment on children. The rest said that it largely depends on the scenario and that the level of physical punishment has to be within reason. Respondents that do administer physical punishment on their own children use it as a means to set boundaries. The majority of respondents felt that children should be guided by reason more than punishment if they have the mental capacity to be reasoned with. Some respondents also added on, saying that physical punishment should only be reserved as a last resort when repeated reasoning does not work. So, what do you think?